Welcome to an episode of Don't Use That, Use This. In this episode, I will talk about the FV215B 183. Many people think that this tank is OP and giving it the nickname Death Star because of the gun, which can do lots of damage and one hit KO many tanks. But in reality, it is not OP at all. In fact, it is subpar in terms of combat capabilities. There are tanks that can do each what you think that it does better. So I'll drive this tank, I'll show you what it can do, I'll show you what people think that it can do but it actually fails at, and then I'll show you the alternatives. Since this tank is a tank destroyer, it's natural that people would want to use it as a sniper. But as you can see here, the accuracy, if you want to use it for sniping, is totally atrocious. You can see the amount of aim time that I need just to be able to hit this guy. You see, even when I move, even from turret movement, the accuracy bloom is so large, I can't aim properly. Usually, if you want to actually hit people, even at close range like just now, and if you want it to pen using hash, it involves pretty much getting hit yourself first because you take so long to aim. So let's maybe, oh yeah, I'm saying that the bush fake because somehow I was spotted here. Okay, so let's shoot at this T57. By the time I almost aim finish, he already ran away. But never mind, let's aim another guy like the other T57. But that guy, he already gets shot a few times by my team because my team has a lot of guns and he's quite exposed. So by the time my gun actually reloads and aim properly to hit him, it doesn't matter if my gun is powerful or not. Regardless whether my gun does 200 damage or 1000 damage, he's dead. But what this means is I'm wasting my DPM because of my long reload. So yeah, in those type of situations, a T57 can aim much quicker and dish out the damage much quicker. So what is this tank good for? For ambushing people like this guy I'm going to. So a sudden attack that kills it in one shot. That's pretty much what it's good for. But notice that that guy was only tier 8, and here is something about this tank. It still can one hit KO tier 8, some tier 9. And remember that the original reason for the hash nerf was so that it cannot one hit KO tanks in general. But here's the thing, it never could one hit KO tier 10s in the first place because of the HP. Tier 10 tends to have more HP than 1800, so you can do a lot of damage to it, and that's if you are lucky, you can do a lot of damage to it, but he wouldn't die, and then after that you die. And also, how is killing tier 10 OP when there are tier 5s that can kill other tier 5s in one shot also, and tier 3 and tier 4, and this is considered sail clubbing. Things like M4 Sherman, things like KV1 with their derp gun. So if these tanks are acceptable against new players, why is the FV215B 183 considered overpowered then? This is one thing that I just don't understand. I mean, you are tier 10 players, right? You are supposed to be experienced, complaining less. So I wouldn't talk too much into it. Okay, so never mind. Let's look at another replay, and this one I will show you what this tank is good at instead. I mean, in this first replay, I really show that for sniping, pretty much this tank is useless. So what happens when it gets up close and personal? You may have noticed that I'm using hash, and this hash is pretty much what make this tank work. Without it, it's pretty much useless, I can tell you. Because if you want to use the AP round, right, that this guy beside me use it much better, way more accuracy, and he actually has the armor to pull it off. When the 183, the FV215B 183 uses AP round, right, there are chances that it will just bounce off because it will just hit the hard part of enemy vehicles, like the slope armor, like the turret, because the gun is totally inaccurate. So instead, I use hash, because with hash, even if I hit and do not pen, I can still do 700 damage and also module damage. You compare it against 1000. Here I have 700 damage of reliable damage, and if I get lucky, I can do 1700. So it's quite worth it. So here is the good part about hash now, as I will show you how I'm going to do damage with this IS-7. You will not do this with AP. Essentially, this tank functions like an artillery, as a wall breaker, as a stalemate breaker, as a debuff. I kill the IS-7 because it has lots of armor but it has a low HP, so it is worth it that I can do 700 damage to it reliably instead of using 1000 damage that can bounce. That is an AP round. This is the same reasoning for using HE in RT instead of AP, isn't it? And of course, you can also, at close combat is really where this tank shines. You can also use it to like suddenly ambush people who are not expecting you, like this guy here who just appeared to get shot. You can do flanking with it, flanking maneuvers, suddenly appearing at the side where they will take full damage from the hash. And that's pretty much it. In direct combat, this tank isn't very good apart from the initial ambush. So it is just a support tank. You actually need other people to help you take the damage after you shoot. You can deal the initial, you are a good initiator, a good ambusher. But as you can see, I cannot just push into those IS-7 and stuff. I need somebody to just distract him. And here I use the hash again, because, I mean, why not? Yeah. 24 seconds reload means it takes too long to change weapons. Yeah. And if I use AP, I may just bounce. So, whatever. So, hash, yeah. Okay, so now let's look at another replay which will demonstrate why people actually think that this tank is OP and why it actually isn't. In the same video, I will show both. Okay, so summary of last two videos. Long range sniping doesn't work. Close up can work, but as a support tank or as an ambusher for the initial strike. So what happens in this situation? There's nothing. I mean, I can go into the center to brawl, but that's stupid because I'm too big. I have no speed to get to the top area, to the mountains there. So the only thing I can do is be a fucking asshole, be a fucking noob, and then snipe like a noob does. So let me forward this a bit. Okay, because of the slowness of this tank and also the lack of accuracy, I'm pretty much a dead weight to the team. Here I want to shoot the mouse, but by the time I actually move up and then I auto aim a little bit, he already disappeared. I have to wait a long time to aim anyway, so I'm pretty much useless as I wait for the mouse to come out, but he doesn't come out. Actually, I think he was actually shootable, but nobody is actually scouting, so Because of my lack of armor, I cannot actually move forward and kill stuff either. Yeah. So my team is pretty much dying left, right, center, while I'm here trying to shoot something, but there's pretty much nothing I can shoot at. As I try to move as I try to move east, I get spotted already by God knows who. So you can see me trying to shoot the JP. I got shot, so I just retaliate and run away, but even at that distance, even with those aim time, I just miss. And that's one reason I use hash, because at least if I touch a bit using hash, I still can do damage. With the AP, it's just nothing. I'm just useless with the AP in this case. But too long reload time, so he runs away. So we are pretty much dead, and yeah. So here I turn to see whether I can actually still sneak in some damage. I see the RU, but I can't do anything because my gun is too inaccurate. And also this tank, the shell speed is quite slow. As you can see just now, right, just by twitching the turret, I lose so much accuracy. And here is why people think that this tank is OP. Because I just did 1800 damage. But as you notice that there's too much luck involved in order for me to pull that shot off. And how much did I sacrifice in order to pull that shot off? I pretty much let the rest of the team die. Yeah. And here is the aim. I try to shoot the AMX. He turns and show his front armor, which is paper, and I kill him in one shot. So again, people will cry, this tank is so OP. But do you know that if he actually showed the side armor, he will show me the track. I will hit the track and do 700 damage. It won't be enough to kill him. And I even took damage in the process, so yeah. So that is why people think it's OP. It's the same case as artillery. When you get shot by artillery, oh my god, 2000 damage, OP. But how often does it actually happen? And you have to be quite bad and quite unlucky for it to happen. Everybody knows that RT is just a waste of your win rate, of your stats. Nobody brings it to 10 wars. So 183, this tank is just like another RT. Do you still think it's OP? Okay, now I will talk about the alternatives in the video to come. Here we have the T57 heavy tank. If you want to move in close distances, you can use this tank. You want to brawl people, they'll go and do 1600 damage, you can use this tank. If you snipe, you can use this tank also. The 1600 isn't from a single shot, of course, it's from an autoloader, but it's way more accurate. This tank actually has the armor to pull it off, and more mobile and gun depression. So it's pretty much better in nearly everything. Accuracy, it was nerfed last time, but it's still very strong. Yeah, DPM very strong. Okay, now we see the enemy and we see why this tank simply doesn't work. I don't even need my tank to show why it sucks. It's already getting heavy damage from my teammate just by showing itself, because it is such a big target with no armor. Of course, I missed quite a bit, but hey, from that distance, it's quite hard to hit. So let's move forward a bit. Fast forward a bit. Okay, around here, I see a IS-3, and I just shoot the first shot with little time to aim. Go in, shoot 3 more, and kill him through the space armor. You will never see a 183 pull that off, because with the initial shot, you already need so much time to aim, the enemy just runs away. And if you shoot and you miss, GG, you're dead. If you hit the space armor, GG, you're dead too. So, close combat against a lower tier, or it doesn't even need to be a lower tier, it can be just any tank. Any tank with, okay, just any tank. Because in the case of the FV215B, right, you still need to pick your targets. Like pick one with less armor that you can actually pen, then you can do the full hash damage, because otherwise you are just, unless you load AP, but if you load AP, go and use a JP E100 please. Okay, so now what about if you want to snipe in this tank? Here's the thing, if you want to snipe, you can. In the first place, it is way more accurate than the 215-183, and it has 4 shots, so at least one of the shots is bound to hit. Yeah. You have enough armor to move up, enough gun, enough speed, gun depression armor for this. You're not as cumbersome. You can go in and then actually shoot people. Again, oh, somebody is shooting you. Time to retaliate. Please tell me this tank isn't overpowered. But actually there was a time when everybody were complaining. But nowadays, pretty much nobody complains about this tank. For some reason it gets forgotten, but it's still very powerful. And of course, what is the best part for this tank? Brawling. It is designed to brawl. Low time between shots, high DPM, good armor, good accuracy. Go in, kill things, whatever. Just whatever then. That's it. He's dead. You can see that the damage output of this tank is way more reliable compared to the 183. Survivability way better. Gun depression, gun control accuracy way better. Speed way better. Effective DPM, because you don't waste your shots bouncing them, or in the case of hash, at least you do damage, but you don't do a lot of bad damage. Yeah. So that is one alternative. All rounder, pretty much everything better. Here is the other alternative to the FV215B 183. You can do 750 damage every around 15 seconds or 16, around there, compared to 24. If you use a hash of the FV215B, is usually around 700 damage. Although that 700 damage is a confirm you get 700 damage just by touching, but that means you have to touch the tank at least. With that tank, often you don't even touch the enemy tank at all. So if you have the skill and also the hit rounds to pull it off, you can deal way more damage, way more reliable damage using the E100, and at the same time also have way more armor, way more hit points. So that's another option. In terms of general combat capability at close range, the pretty good. I mean, this is one of my highest in the tier 10 compared to, I guess, okay, take note, this is because I do the damage usually at locations where it don't matter. So you can see that even though I have one of the highest damage for my tier 10 tanks in this, the win rate is actually very low. I have a lot of tanks, right? 63, 62, 61, 61. Pretty much my average is around 59 to 61, depending on how you want to measure. Even the T57 is 60% here. This one 57, because the damage is done uselessly. Yeah. So yeah, don't step head or win it too much. It's pointless. Yeah. Okay, notice I've been using heavy tanks as the alternative to the 183. Well, this is mainly because if you want to use a 183, right, you are using it kind of as a heavy tank because of the turret. If I can talk about the JP E100, but it's not really a direct alternative because narrow gun traverse. If I use things like the object, not really a good comparison either. Okay, maybe the E4 is a good comparison, and while this is kind of an alternative to the 183, personally I don't recommend it, because if you want to use this, right, you might as well use the E100 also. Yeah, same rate of fire, only that this tank, right, the gun is more accurate, but there's one catch. Your armor is actually less than the E100 because people can actually shoot you just here. By the time you expose yourself, right, people just shoot you. At least E100 isn't, okay, maybe it's quite bad, but at least you can angle your turret quite a bit usually. Because you have hull armor, this tank doesn't have any semblance of hull armor from the side. So yeah, 76 here. Yeah, so extra bonus material, if you want to use this tank, don't use this tank, use E100. It's pretty much the same thing, yeah, except better. Yep. So are there other heavy tanks that are alternative to the FV215B 183? Pretty much no, because when you use a 183, you are pretty much going to, what are you aiming for? You are aiming for huge alpha, you are aiming for the ability to push and kill people, which it totally sucks at, by the way. But instead, I have two alternatives here that are very good in terms of accuracy, in terms of sniping, in terms of dealing huge damage in a short amount of time, and more reliably than a 183, while providing way more armor, way more reliable combat performance. So here we go, these two tanks way more overpowered than a 183.